And this afternoon we have, on stage, we have chefs demonstrating all sorts of traditional dishes and also things a little bit quirky for your Christmas and celebratory meals. And we also have our Food and Wine magazine wine editor, Raymond Blake, who has chosen all the wines to go with the food. Raymond's going to make his way out now, and there we go. There's Raymond.
Good to see us. We've got some non-rugby fans here.
Oh yes, there's some there's a match on today.
We should welcome them.
Oh. And then, of course, what you've all been waiting for is a Michelin-starred chef, the only Michelin star on the north side, in fact, Ross Lewis. Now, Ross, what are you going to be cooking?
Good afternoon. How are you all doing? It's a very lonely place up there on the north side with one star, I can tell you.
And we get you another
star of chapter 1. There's the odd star that comes and visits us every now and again. No, I can
That's
tell
me.
You.
The two Rosses.
Bright, shiny. See his teeth? Do you know how much he spent on them?
Very expensive.
A lot of money.
Is this burning?
Okay, yeah. Now, I tell you what I'm going to do for you today. We decided we'd do something a little bit different. Now, this is a slow-cooked piece of beef, and why it's different is that this is actually an ox cheek, okay? It's Christmassy, and we have it on at this time of year in Chapter 1, where we do a spiced beef cheek. And I'm from Cork, and the reason that we do it is that Cork is a great town for spiced beef. And the reason it's a great town for spiced beef is because Cork Market, they used to be a brining town. They'd brine all the prime cuts of meat into barrels and send it off to the troops in India. And they used to get back in receipt of that spices. And they asked them to start spicing beef, so they start spicing beef as a way of preserving it and sending it out. So what we do is we've done a little take on that, okay? I'll explain the dish to you. This is Paul Mark McNamara. Say hello to everyone, Paul. Hello, hello, hello. He's very nervous. Now, the reason I brought Paul is that he knows what's going on. 1. 2, I'm good at talking, but I'm no good at working, and he's good at working. So he's going to do a little work here for me today, okay? And what we're going to do is Paul will start, and I'm going to start running through the dish for you, okay? So this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a cheek of beef, okay? Now, for any of you who haven't seen a cheek of beef, I don't know, is there a camera there? Can you see that now? Okay. This is a cheek of beef, okay? Now, you're going to say to me, oh, sure, that's great, but where are we ever going to get a cheek of beef? Well, Michael from M&K Butchers, who is here somewhere with me, he always runs away when you need him. There he is, the nice, good-looking fellow with the hat on. The reason we slow-cook this is an absolutely fantastic piece of meat. It's soft and unctuous, and it's a very, very tough piece of meat, but has an awful lot of gelatin in it because, you know, the cow ruminates or masticates, I think is the word. Careful. And it reminds me of the famous joke about the judge in the Supreme Court down in Cork, and he says to the court, the clerk, he says, will you ever go down there and tell that fella at the back of the court to stop masticating? He's annoying me. So the clerk of the court went down to the young fella at the back of the court, leaning up against the wall, and he says, the judge wants you to take your hands out of your pockets. Anyway, so let's get back to cooking.
Yes, indeed.
So
that could have been a very scary conclusion to that on an afternoon show, Ross.
Absolutely. What we do with this piece of beef, I leave it in red wine for 24 hours, okay? A little bit of carrot, some onion, some leek, some thyme, okay? And that helps to break down some of the proteins, makes it tender, and obviously gives it a nice flavour. The acidity will affect the tenderness, okay? So after that, what we're going to do is we're going to put it into, we could put it into a pan, okay? And we're going to caramelize it, okay? So what we mean by caramelizing it is that we're going to put in about a half an inch of oil, okay? And we're going to, you need to dry it off, okay? So we're going to take it and put on a little bit of kitchen towel.
So compared to other cuts of meat then, how would that compared to, say, a fillet steak, say?
Right, so what we're going to do at this point
It's completely ignored me. You see that?
is we're going to get up somebody who really knows what they're talking about. Michael Birmingham from M&K Meats, come and take your rightful place here. Because
We're being invaded now. Here we go.
the reason really that
Okay, if you weren't running a Michelin-starred restaurant and charging Michelin prices, what would you pay for that cut of meat?
The housewife or the restaurant?
No. Men,
And there's
house
a
husbands
difference?
And house husbands as well.
Particularly, because, as Ross said, because this is
It's
a
on hot,
tough
is it?
piece of meat, generally it's a lot more cheaper than you would pay for a fillet steak. But in saying that, it's the calibre of Ross Lewis to work his magic, to know how to break this down and marinate it to make it a tender piece of meat. And everything has a price. So if you're going to pay, you have a lot of labour to contribute to it. For these guys to work their magic and marinate it, which makes it tender. So again, there's a lot more of alternative cuts out there, especially in the times they're in at the moment. It's there's a range of alternative cuts.
But they were always great cuts, but everybody just wanted fillet
I've
steak.
seasoned that, yeah.
There was always great cuts and great flavours. It's just a question of, well, like, we shouldn't really be calling them cheap cuts, should we? We should be calling them value cuts, maybe.
Absolutely. Like, there's a lot more muscles to an animal apart from the fillet, the strip loin, or the ribeye. And I think over the boom years, that was definitely on a lot of people's menus. But the likes of Ross Lewis, the likes of Derry Clark, who are using alternative cuts which has wonderful flavours, muscle fibres, everything to help make the finished product.
Great.
The best.
And you're here today,
Now,
aren't you, down in...
what I want to do, because the reason we did this piece of beef is the French call this, they call this a slow cooking method, and they use it for. Michael, I'm not finished with you there. Sorry. They call this a daube of beef. Now, a daube means a piece of beef that is slow cooked. Okay, so you want something with a little bit of fat in it, first of all. Okay. So this is an ox cheek, but we have it on our menu as a daube of beef, okay?
But
a daube really only means slow cooked. But what I want to do is I want to get across to people that there are lots of alternative cuts out there that you can use instead of this. Like, I would imagine, Michael, you know, the blade of beef. You might talk about maybe one or two cuts that people could go into a butcher shop in these kind of lean enough times. I never use the word cheap in my company, by the way.
Sorry,
Thank you very
sorry.
much, you know.
Yeah,
I
sorry,
once
we're getting
made the mistake,
confused.
actually, of saying on radio sometime last year, I was interviewed by RT and said, well, what would you do? I said, well, we'll have to use some cheaper cuts to give people value. And of course, as soon as I said it, I knew I should have said less expensive cuts and give them added value, because the word cheap, not something you want to use this year. But anyway,
No.
so you might just, you know, maybe...
Absolutely, and Ross is so right. There's so many different alternative cuts out there. The likes of beef lap is what we call it with the trade. Some chefs call it Jacob's ladder. Again, it's the lap of the rib of beef. Again, it's a wonderful cut of meat. It takes a little bit of more work and preparation, but the finished product is fantastic. Another cut that you have that used to be very popular years ago was the pot roast, the brisket beef. Again, cooked properly and braised down, can be absolutely fantastic. You then have some of the flank steak. Again, anything with a lot of muscle fibre or sinew in it, braised and cooked properly, can be absolutely melt in your mouth gorgeous.
And the principle will be slow and low. Cook it slow.
Slow and low, marinated.